Well, the Minnesota Twins, they lost a heartbreaker, but hey, it's Wild season. Let's get into it. Here we go. It's been a hard week to be a Minnesota sports fan. The Twins lost in heartbreak fashion, but at least they won a game in the playoffs. Thank goodness. The Vikings, Jefferson is now headed to the IL. People are calling for Kirk Cousins to waive his no-trade clause, but hey, we're over all that for the moment. It is Minnesota Wild season. Opening day, today. Here we go. I'm excited. Are you guys excited? Is this the year?
This is Christmas morning, baby. This is Christmas morning. You guys have known me long enough. Great to be back. Great to see you guys.
We've waited a long time for this, and finally it's here. We're going to see Kaprizov out on the ice. We're going to see that mojo with Boldy and Eck. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait. I mean, this is pretty much the same team as last year, plus the addition of Patrick Maroon, I believe. I think he's kind of the only guy we've really added, unless we've got some call-ups. I mean, knowing that we have the same roster, I guess I'll start with you. I want to find out, like, what are your expectations for this team? I know last year when we previewed the season, we had pretty high expectations. They got to the playoffs. They didn't get swept. So, I mean, what are we thinking this year? Are we hoping to have a push further than what we had last year?
And maybe the bigger question is, what do we dare to think about their expectations? It is a preview show, guys, and everything we talk about today is going to be kind of based on last year and, you know, probably enthusiasm. You guys know me that I'm kind of an eternal optimist. And while the Wild did not really dismantle or did not really reface, Wild fans are going to know everybody's number except for Pat Maroon. And Pat Maroon sticks out. You don't even need to know his number right now. But my point is, I think we're going to see for the Minnesota Wild in 23-24 the same personnel with a healthy dose waiting and ready in Iowa, with an expectation by the roster, one line, second line, third line, fourth line, to be better than last year. You've got another year under your belt that's been a young team on the bottom end, an old and aging team on the top end. It's going to be where the pedal hits the metal is what they've learned from last year and where they fit in. And I'm optimistic about this season. You know, certainly we have to talk about the cap hit and paying off, you know, Suter and Parisi for another couple of years here, being $14 million short. Boy, that would look nice. Would look nice to drive a couple new cars in there. But I think this is a solid fundamental team. Remember, this was a team that was in first place or a point out of first place the last week of the regular season last year before they went into Dallas and got beat in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, hey, it's the first day of the season. I'm expecting great things from Santa Claus tonight.
Yeah. How about you, Alex? How are you feeling? Are you amped? Are you still down after the Twins loss? Are you feeling good about this team?
I've wiped my mind of the Twins loss. We can figure that out next March. Not worried about that. Right now, it's Wild season, and I'm so excited for this team. We saw flashes and glimpses of it the past few years, this young group of just electric hockey players. And I think that, you know, maybe finding some right guys from that barn down in Iowa could give some juice to the boys this year. But like Gis was saying, this team was in first place for a lot of last year. And I think we're completely capable of doing that again. And I would love to get another crack at the Stars in the playoffs. It sounds like a good cup of tea.
Give me Ottinger again, please. We can burn him now. I feel good. All right. But I mean, I agree. I'm excited. This is the year. I'm feeling like not necessarily the year to win the whole thing, but I think they could win this division. I think there's opportunities. We've got goal scorers. We've got stars. We guys that can, you know, make perfect passes like Johansson that are going to really set up Eck and Boldy. That line really is one of the lines I'm most excited about this year. And I think it's a little underrated that, you know, some people may look at this team and say, hey, they didn't really make a lot of moves. You know, that's kind of what I said in the beginning of the podcast. They didn't do a lot. They didn't add. They didn't take away. But sometimes that might be what it takes in the world of the NHL, because now you get to keep those lines together. You keep your D partners together. You're really structuring your team and said, hey, all last year, you're with your same guys. You don't have to relearn somebody else coming in. You don't have to figure out, hey, where is he coming across the ice? How does he want to call for the pass? You don't have to relearn all that stuff. You've been playing Kirill, Zuccarello, Hartman together now for quite a while, and that gets me very excited, even more than bringing in an entire another star. Like we said, the cap hit $14 million. You could plug somebody amazing in here, but I kind of like the fact that they have the same lines as last year. All the fans are going to remember it. Like you said, you're going to see the same jersey numbers. But one of the ways that we need to really keep these lines together this year, unlike we saw last year, there were some injuries. And we've already had an injury this year, and we need to talk about it. Spurgeon. Guess I want to ask you, like, how long is he going to be out? What are we thinking? Is this going to be a lingering injury throughout the season? I'm just curious. We need Spurgeon in this lineup, I think, as well, right?
Well, no question. He went down, kind of checked awkwardly into the boards in a preseason game and has an upper body injury. I'm told he's week to week, but I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that from everybody I talked to. And as far as re-aggravating it, if it's upper body, there's always a chance to re-aggravate. But I don't think he's going to be gone till Christmas. I don't think he's going to be gone till Thanksgiving, but I don't think we may see him in the month of October from everything I'm hearing. And to your point, Cole, about injuries, right off the top of the show, you mentioned Matt Boldy, you mentioned Eriksson Ek. You also mentioned Kirill as kind of being the three amigos up there. Two of those three were hurt in the last month of the regular season last year, with Ecker with his ankle and Kirill with his knee. And both those guys have come back fiercely in rehab and worked out a ton this summer. I got a chance to see the Wild practice up in Duluth a couple of weeks ago, and Kirill was flying, Eriksson Ek was blazing around, and the rest of the characters. But to your point, health and wellness are going to be paramount for a team that, as we've talked about, is not greatly different from last year and not as deep as you might think they are, minus a free agent star. So that's going to be a fine line, and kind of shake salt over your shoulders each night you skate out onto the ice and hope for the best.
For sure. And Alex, I'll ask you about Matt Boldy a little bit. I know at the end of the season there, we really saw Matt Boldy go on a run, kind of a historic run, honestly. And was that April where he's had just I think he had like 30 games in a row with a point or whatever it was. I don't know the exact number, but he was fire, and he's going to continue to be fire in the beginning of the season, hopefully. What are some of your expectations for Boldy? And are you more excited for Boldy or Kirill to start this season?
Oh, man, that's a tough spot to be put in. I mean, those are two wonderful hockey players, two extremely talented guys that I think we're going to need both of them to step their game up and kind of get to that next level and be true leaders on this team, especially towards the start of the season here, missing one of our best leaders in Spurgeon. I think Kirill specifically is going to have to take that extra step and really represent that new letter on the front of his sweater.
Yeah, the A on the chest. What do you think of that, Gis? That's pretty well deserved. And I saw him speaking quite a bit of English too. It was good to see. I mean, I know, I don't expect him to, but he's clearly trying and loves to be here in Minnesota, and I like to see that. What do you think of the A on Kirill's chest? And he got 75 points last year, over 100 points the year before. I know he dealt with injuries last year. Do we expect him, if he's healthy, Kirill, to surpass his 108 points that he had 2 years ago?
I do. I really do. I think he's locked and loaded. I think he's healthy. And to the alternate captain question, you talk to any player on this team, and they'll tell you that he's a quiet leader. He got vocal a couple times last year in playoffs, and the fire of hockey burns within Kirill. The coaching staff tells me he's first guy on the ice still and the last guy off, and just passes, shoots. He's a rink rat. And to me, that's infectious for these younger players to see how much a true superstar now in the National Hockey League loves this game and how passionate he is about it. And that is a quiet leadership. And as you mentioned, Obi, as his English refines, he'll be able to get a little more vocal. But show me a good leader, and I'll tell you about a person who goes out and does it night in and night out, and everybody else, goes from there.
For sure. And speaking of leaders, I know we've talked about a few of them now. We got to talk about, some of the veterans on this team. What do you kind of got to say? You got Marcus Johansson, you got Foligno coming back. We kind of have, I know we said it's kind of, there's some young guys on this team, but we really have almost more of a veteran weighted team, it feels like this year. Is that a positive thing just from a leadership sake, or is that an issue thing from potential injuries, some older guys, or how are you feeling about having more of a veteran team more than a rookie team?
Alex?
I think there's positives and negatives to both sides of it. I mean, obviously positive, having that that veteran leadership, guys that have been there and done that. I think that's so valuable to a team, especially when you got a good amount of young guys coming in, and like someone's got to show them how do you operate in this hockey league, and having those guys on your roster can be such an advantage. But at the same time, like you were saying, more likely to get injury, maybe not, at the top of their game like they used to be. So I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to pay attention to throughout the season is, are these guys still producing, and are these younger guys taking the next step?
One thing we know for sure, guys, is that Bill Guerin believes in some of these longer in tooth guys. He kind of raised some eyebrows this summer by extending guys like Marcus Foligno, Zuccarello, Ryan Hartman got a new deal. A younger kid, Calen Addison, got a deal. So obviously Billy G believes in these guys and the character, and he's never really masked his focus and his commitment to having that character and that experience on the team as you start to blend the old with the new. And I guess we will see. I think a couple big X factors, if I could just pivot here a little bit. First and foremost is Marco Rossi, I'm calling him by his former.
Is he going by
Rossi,
or is he going by Rossi now?
So apparently he's gone back to Rossi because nobody could say Rossi by rolling their tongue. So it'll be Marco Rossi this year, and by all accounts, he came back bigger, stronger, faster. He stayed in Minnesota, did not go home to his native country this year, and I saw him in Duluth, and it was notable. And his speed and he just looked thicker to me. And let's face it, the Wild have a need for a center iceman, and if Rossi can figure that part out, that's great. The other X factors to me are the goaltending situation, and that to me is going to separate a lot when you got Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre. I'm hearing that the coaching staff will probably skew a little towards the hot goaltender, and right now that's Gustafsson and will be Gustafsson. So Marc-Andre can sit back and not get the lion's share of the load unless the Gus is off the tracks a little bit. And then I do expect to see Jesper Wallstedt, who's still down in Iowa, the goalie of the future. You'll see him make his NHL debut this year for sure at XL, and I think you might see a handful of games from him as they continue to prime the pump for the future between the pipes.
Yeah, and I think a big difference in that is going to make the big difference is going to be what our record is. If we've got a great record or a poor record around, I think, Christmas time, like we've talked about before, they've still got Gus for another 2 years. They're going to want to make sure they save him for the playoffs or save him for next season. So you're going to be plugging in Fleury. You're going to be plugging in Jesper Wallstedt. We're going to see both those guys in there for sure in the second half of the season. I think. Do you think that you could actually see Jesper up in the beginning of the year? Or is that going to be a later in the season type thing?
No, that'll be post Christmas, I'm sure. Hey, unless there's an injury or unless two goaltenders that work at XL Energy Center right now don't show up for work for a couple weeks in a row. Who knows? It's hockey. It's professional hockey. To your point though about leadership, I mean, you get the tutelage of Gustafsson and Marc-Andre with Jesper Wallstedt. The big free agent signing, their only free agent signing, is Patty Maroon. Came in here. He's got a couple Stanley Cup championships under his belt. When I saw him in Duluth, I mean, pretty ice level. I mean, you thought Ryan Reeves, the guy he's kind of taken the place of, is a kind of a awe-inspiring character. You should see how big and thick Pat Maroon is. And by the way, he's still got pretty good hands, and he can still knock people off the puck left and right. And I know they're counting on the experience that he brings. He's a grade A citizen. He loves Minnesota. And I think Pat Maroon will be great for this hockey club, for the short term. And
I assume he's going to be on the fourth line with Dewar and Duhaime, most likely.
Correct.
At least
it's already been established. 100%. So you got a little speed there, and then you got a guy that nobody wants to mess with, and you got a guy that's on the bench if anybody starts running Kirill again. So, I think he's a little bit more of a goal scorer than Reeves was, though. I think he doesn't quite wear the full enforcer cap that like Orion Reeves did.
Yeah. And who do you, I mean, Foligno then kind of stepping in since we don't have Reeves this year. He's obviously now the enforcer. It pretty much falls on him.
Yeah, Pat Maroon will be kind of the number one, and then, Foligno is a nice compliment. The problem with Foligno enforcing too much is, he's been susceptible to some injuries, and I don't think they really want him, getting dirt underneath his fingernails in that department if they can keep him, because he's going to be playing third line, sometimes second line, and that's not a fourth line guy you can just easily replace. Not that Pat Maroon you can easily replace either. So,
right, that's for sure. And I mean, if you take a look at just looking about the forwards, I think we're going to move on and talk about defense. We're going to talk about looking at the game coming up here against the runner-up in the Stanley Cup, the Florida Panthers. But just kind of one last thing on the offense, kind of looking at the cap hits and when their contracts expire. If you look at those first few lines, I mean, you've got Kaprizov here till 2026. You got Hartman 27, Matt Zuccarello 26. Johansson 25, Eck 29, Boldy until 2030. I mean, that six right there, that core, they're not going anywhere. They're here to work. They're here to be Team Minnesota. They're not playing for their next contract right now. They're playing to win now, and that's what they want, and that's how they're going to get their extensions. They know that extra money's coming in once we get those other contracts off the book. But, I mean, Patrick Maroon, yes, we added him. He's actually our lowest cap hit. Tied with Connor Dewar, and they're both their contracts expire at the end of this season, both only an $800,000 cap hit. So as a fourth line to fill those guys in that low of a cap hit, that's pretty awesome. I'm very excited about these forwards this year. Everyone just needs to stay healthy. But let's kind of move on to the defense for a moment. And I want to start out with, we talked about Spurgeon, but we need to talk about two guys specifically in my mind. And that is one, I want to ask you, Alex, about Brock Faber and what your expectations are for him. He had a heck of an end of the season last year after coming up with from the Gophers. Absolutely amazing. Love to see him out there. He's clearly a big part of this team. And then, yes, after Alex talks about Brock Faber, I kind of want you to follow up about Calen Addison. Is he going to show up this year? Like, what do we expect from Calen Addison? I think there's a little bit of a question mark on him from some people. But starting with Brock Faber, Alex, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it was super fun getting to watch him in the postseason last season. I mean, he coming from the Gophers, a heartbreaking loss to Quinnipiac in the national championship, but comes right in, doesn't skip a beat, has a few, saves the game in that overtime game. And just, I'm super excited to see what he can do over a full season's worth of games. And I mean, he's obviously got a lot of talent and a lot of skill, and you know what? I can't wait to watch him. And then, you got a guy like Calen Addison who just had sky high expectations last year and didn't fully deliver on them. So what are you thinking about him for this season, Gis?
Well, Calen Addison is an interesting study. He's a very talented hockey player. He runs a power play well. I mean, I think he led the league in power play assists the first month of the season. Led the team, sorry. So obviously he's got all the tools. He's a tremendous, tremendous skater. The big hitch in Calen Addison's giddy up, according to the Wild coaching staff, was his work ethic. I don't want to call it your work ethic, but maybe his grittiness, or maybe his determination to play as good a defense as he played offense. And it started with a scratch here and then a scratch here, and then maybe play a couple games and then another scratch. And they reminded him that, he's got to pay more attention to what guys like Jared Spurgeon, kind of a prototype defenseman as him, was doing. And I don't know that was really taken in or absorbed or well received by Addison. And I think the coaching staff called him on it. And once you call Dean Evison on something, you're probably going to be in the doghouse a little longer than most professional coaches, which I think I actually love. But Addison never really made it back out of his doghouse at the end of the season. Didn't really play for the final month of the season. Did not, really, So what happens? He stays and he works his tail off. He doesn't go anywhere all summer, and he comes back with a kind of a bigger, better, brighter attitude, and they re-sign him. He was the last of the re-signings before the season started. So they're obviously putting the feather back in his cap and telling him, you pay attention to things, we can use you. And I think you'll see Addy move into a role this year where he knows his limitations, and those limitations being I better be playing as good a defense as I'm playing offense.
Yep. And he knows that when they sign him to just a 1-year contract as well. So he knows they've got expectations for him, and they're going to have a short leash if he doesn't get to those expectations. I assume at least Billy G or Dean Evison will. We've talked about a lot of specific players. Let's kind of talk about the overall Wild game plan, and then we're going to dive into Panthers. But last year, people had issue with the Wild not shooting enough. Do you think we kind of see the game plan this year of the Wild starting to open up that game a little bit more? Or are they going to go in and do the same thing as they did last year? They're going to try to attack the same way, the same power play, penalty kills. You were at practice, Gis. I'd like to ask you, are they going to ask Kirill to shoot more, for example? What kind of game strategy changes do we think the Wild might make adjustments this season?
I think that's going to depend on, we talked about the maturation of everybody, kind of the middle of the pack guys and the lower experienced guys. Are they that much better? Are they that much more skilled to shoot and score off the shot? You have to remember, and when fans get ticked off about you have to shoot more, you have to remember that you're trying to beat the 6th best defenseman that night in the world. You're trying to beat the first best goaltender in the world if there's 30 hockey teams. And the National Hockey League is evolving into you better move it, and there's not as many conventional goals anymore. So everybody's got to keep that in mind. To me, the old adage of if you're overpassing or nothing is happening, let's score some greasy goals, let's start shooting more. But I don't expect the coaching staff to put any onus on we've definitely got to shoot more. If a passing lane is open, if our systems are good, we need to get shots through the defense, and we need to get quality shots on the goaltender. You can shoot you can shoot way more and shoot 1,000,000 times a night, outshoot them 50-20, and still lose 2-1.
Right?
Because those aren't quality shots. Is my point.
Yep. So a focus on quality shots is what you kind of see from this team again this season. And that I like that, set the play up. It's the same thing with any sport. Once you get to that professional level, you're not playing high school hockey anymore. You need to set the play up. You need to beat the goaltender and beat the defenseman. So that's good to see. And obviously setting up the play, we talk about I'm going to ask you again, Gis, actually about the power play and the penalty kill. Are we going to have kind of the same system? Is there any kind of changes or adjustments that we might see this season in the power play? Because there were some good things, but also there were some issues for sure last year.
Yeah, well, the penalty kill by and large, not horrible last year. Had a few breakdowns, this and that. I definitely think, and I have seen even in practice, Jason King, a new assistant coach, came in and replaced Brett McLean, who's now the head coach for the Iowa Wild. So it's basically Dean, Darby, Bob Woods, and now Jason King, with your goalie coach being Freddie Shabbat. But this Jason King, I got a chance to meet him a little bit, talk to him. He's not going to be barging onto the scene and trying to reinvent the power play wheel. He comes from Philadelphia, who was a very low-end team during his tenure there. But I think this Jason King has an innovative approach to the power play. And I think you'll see the Wild power play improve and the Wild power play better improve because as we all watched last year, there was many breakdowns and not much rhyme or reason to do a lot of it, a lot of the time, too much of the time.
Yeah. Alex, you got anything to add on kind of the Wild gameplay? And, if you see kind of the same thing, are you expecting some coaching changes? Are you expecting some player changes? Is there anything that you want to see changed on this team this season from a gameplay standpoint?
Yeah, one of the things I would love to see improve this year is the penalty kill and drawing penalties. Towards the end in the playoffs last year, it was just absolutely abysmal what was going on, just penalty after penalty, and we were letting up so many goals on that. So I think if we can address that and not let that be a season-long problem, I think that's going to be very beneficial for them.
Yeah. Big time. And that's one of the issues for sure is we were in the box a lot and they were not. So we need to do a little of both, draw penalties and not give as many penalties unless it calls for it. Obviously, you're not saying no penalties, but right. We were only, we were ranked about in the middle of the pack, even on the power play last year, and only 1 or 2% difference. And you're at the bottom of that pack. So we weren't too far from being close with some of the bottom players there or bottom teams. But hopefully this year we see them step up. And like I said, I really keep coming back to the fact that we have these same lines, same power play, same guys mixing together. You're not relearning new things. You're not missing passes from guys because you don't expect how they play. Everyone knows how to work with each other. I think that's one of the most exciting things of this year is the fact that we do have the same team and that we did bring back some of the same veterans and we have all our same young talent. And that's exciting. And that is what the excitement is going to be building around tonight at the XL Energy Center. That place is going to be popping. I don't know. I might be down at that game. I haven't decided yet. I've been keeping an eye on tickets. I think I might go. Maybe I can convince one of you guys. I know you can't go, Gis, but Alex, you want to go? Should we go tonight?
Well, if there's one way for you
let's do it.
If there's one way for you two to get over your Twins blues, it'd be go to see the green team tonight. So I heartily endorse that message.
All right. Well, Alex and I will be at the game tonight. Follow Hot Dish Sports on Twitter. You'll see some posts on there for sure. I'm excited. That's all I got to say. That we're going to be playing Florida. Let's take a look at kind of how you think, how are we going to match up against Florida? They were in the Stanley Cup last year. They were kind of they're kind of America's team a little bit. The underdogs. They beat the Bruins in the playoffs. They got hot at the right time. Are they still going to be hot tonight? Or are we gonna close that door on them? Because their fans are expecting a win.
Well, I think just the season they came off of makes them interesting. I'm not sure that they're America's team quite yet because I'm not sure America even knows Florida has 3 hockky teams. But
no, not anymore. Just during playoffs, I think everyone was cheering.
Yeah. That's true.
Underdogs coming.
That's true.
Around.
They're a speedy team. I'm not quite sure, how many they got back or their free agent additions. They're strong between the pipes. They're well coached. Paul Maurice does a nice job with them, and they're on a roll. I think they're on a little bit of we're past the Joe Quenneville coaching snafu. Andrew Burnett was here. Andrew Burnett's gone. Now he's in Nashville. Paul Maurice is our guy, and look what we did in the playoffs last year. You better not mess with us. They're a good hockey team and a formidable opponent, and I'm expecting kind of an end-to-ender tonight right out of the gates.
Yeah, let's talk predictions really quick, Alex. You got the same team as last year on the ice. Who's your click to pick tonight? Let's see. Maybe we can look back and be like, hey, I nailed it.
I'm going to take the easy answer here. I'm going Krill the Thrill. First game in the season, you're back out there. You got the new A on your jersey. I think he comes and shows out with a goal and assist. Has himself a little game.
All right, Gis, you got a pick to click tonight.
I think you're going to see a power play goal from Calen Addison, and I'm looking for probably a 4-2 final with the fourth being an open netter, and the Wild are up and running. Remember, they got off to a horrible start, the Wild did last year, and I think 5 out of 6 maybe or something like that. So good starts are always better than bad starts, and here's to tonight and a good start for the green team.
Well, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a click that not everybody's going to be picking today, but I was recently with Jake Middleton, tarps off.
Oh, name dropping now.
All right. He's gonna have couple assists tonight. They're gonna tell him to shoot the puck a little bit from the point. I think he's gonna have a few assists, a few tip-in goals, and that's gonna help Mr. Kaprizov as well. I think in the paint a bit down there.
Your new personal close friend, Jake Middleton.
My new close friend. It makes me want to take my shirt off, but
see how he drops names like that, Alex? Alex, you see how he drops names like that?
Hey, Alex was with him too. You name dropped. You were up in Duluth.
Yeah, you were name dropping.
Oh, I was. Hey, Alex didn't even bring it up. You're the one who brought it up, and Alex was with them. So I'm going with Alex on this one. And I suppose you're going to hang out with them post game too when they win, or maybe go for a beer. Or?
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely we're tight.
No, he's
form a decency for real, and just start screaming.
He's a good egg, and I like your pick.
I do really think that this team believes in Middleton. I think he's going to be out there. I think the fans love him. I think to see him, if he were to bury one at the X tonight, I think he's only scored 1 goal at the X, I believe. I'm not positive. Not
his
during
words.
Preseason. His words. Did he say that yesterday? Did he have one? Yeah. So assuming that's true, I think tonight he gets number 2. I'm feeling good. I'm going to keep my eyes on him tonight.
Cole, you have just predicted on the longest of long shots. I love it.
You wait. I love it.
Until tomorrow. I love it. I'm tipping
and
I
did not predict a goal. Let me make that clear. I'm predicting 2 assists, and that is going to be clutch.
Okay.
I think he's taken a few shots, but if he gets a goal, I mean, you gotta give us a little credit there too.
Okay.
But I don't think necessarily a goal. I do think he's going to have a couple assists tonight.
Sorry.
With Spurgeon out, I think he's going to have to step up a little bit. Some veteran, he's veteran presence now on this team a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm feeling good.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. Yeah,
it is going to be very exciting. And last thing I want to talk about really quick, just to wrap it up here, we got to talk about this division. You know, we got some competition. You got Colorado, you got the Stars, you got the Blackhawks. I mean, how are you feeling about where the Wild could end up here? And is there any other notes that you want to add on some of these other teams that kind of make you a little nervous or make you excited? Like, are we looking at the same kind of thing as last year? How are you feeling, Gis?
I think so. I think Chicago is still in a rebuild, and they've started that rebuild with arguably the most exciting player in hockey currently, Connor Bedard.
Is that the guy that Marc-Andre Fleury shut down? Is that guy?
That guy too. And then he tripped him.
I saw that.
He tripped him after that, but he also helped him up and tapped him on the back of the breezers, saying, "Nice try, kid. Not tonight." Yes, that's the same Connor Bedard. Yes, for sure it's going to be Colorado. For sure if you're looking at Dallas, they're all back. And let's face it, the Stanley Cup champions, the Vegas Golden Knights, came out of the West. The Wild's division is in the West. The West is still, I think, king. The team that I want to look an eye on would be my close personal friend, Andrew Burnett, coaching the Nashville Predators.
Did you just name drop?
I said close personal friend, and I winked.
Yeah.
But I think Bruno, the former Minnesota Wild player and coach, is gonna do a good job in Nashville. So I think you'll see the Predators ascend a little bit, much more so than you'll see the Hawks. I think the St. Louis Blues are in a I don't know which way they're going or not. But it's going to be a good division. But all you need to do is really say Colorado. All you really need to do is say Dallas, and you know what kind of division you're playing in if you play for the Wild.
Yep. Alex, you got any last thoughts on the division?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of the same dogs in the fight this year. I don't think we see too much change. Maybe one or two teams go in or out. But yeah, I think the Wild just have to keep doing what they're doing. And I mean, it's the playoffs. You just got to make it in and have a month of really good hockey and just see what happens. So I don't think there's too much that changes, but keep on keeping on, I guess.
Keep finding some ways to win. That's what the Wild are going to do tonight. Home opener. I hope everybody gets out to the XL. I hope that place is just as packed. Maybe even some Twins fans will bring their own Homer hankies down there and wave them around. Still hurts. But it's Wild season. We're here. We'll be doing Wild podcasts all season. Please make sure you subscribe to Hot Dish Sports. You can follow us on Twitter. Check out our website. If you have any comments or anything, please drop them in the comments below. We're going to try to make sure we answer all your questions, so please subscribe. We'll be doing some live podcasts as well. Maybe sitting in your garage, Eric, watching some games. We'll throw a camera up and people can just watch us scream at the TV throughout the game.
That would be fun. Maybe you could invite Jake Middleton too, since you're now besties. But yeah,
we could do that.
He's going to be busy
come over
clicking
to watch the Wild game.
Yeah.
I think that would work. You could bring Andrew Burnett. Maybe that'd be even better.
We got Bruno and Mitzi, and why not?
All right. Well, we'll either way, we're going to be here throughout the whole season. It's the season opener. Let's go.